why the podcast? Tell me a little bit more about the podcast itself and how you're organizing it, how people can find it. Let's move into a little bit of that, and the story of how it's being formed, and kind of where you're up to now, and where do you want it to go.
It can be found on Spotify. It's called the Rise Above series. It can be found on there probably next week if you're listening to this now, right now, because I am still in the process of cutting and editing and getting it on the internet. And why the podcast? I'm not gonna lie, I love talking. It's so fun. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, Nicole, what are you good at? And I said, one, talking, and two, to people. Or
Great.
asking questions. Yeah, being a good listener. I have worked really hard. Listening is totally a skill. I've worked really hard on being an active listener. And I also love listening to people share their stories. I think it's really special.
Same.
So it also went along with the idea of, okay, I don't want this to be focused just around sexual assault. Yes, it's an important issue. And yes, I want to bring awareness to it and be an advocate for it. But the whole point of me doing this is so that I'm not selfish, so that I'm selfless in the point of sharing. And I didn't want to also turn it into kind of a sob story, woe is me, because that's not my energy. Like, that's not my
Mhm.
message. It's, this happened to me, here's how I rose above it. And so I thought, what better way to communicate that message than to share other people who have gone through also incredibly difficult things, and where they are now, how they rose above it, advice that they want to give. So, yeah, it was just a super cool idea that I think tied up everything with a bow and made a lot of sense for what I want to do. So that's
Amen.
why
That's so cool.
podcast. Yeah.
I agree. I also like talking. I also like asking people questions and being curious about their life and what they're up to and hearing stories. So I'm about it. I get it. I'm so happy that you did this. So where this comes is you called me, you had a couple questions about podcasting stuff. I think I think I just asked you about it because you posted on social media a while back and you're like, hey, I'm doing this, and then we connected about it. And immediately I'm a big believer in podcasts, obviously. So I was like, dude, come tell us about this. This is so cool. Now, when it comes to the podcast, you told me, or can you tell me a little bit more? I know we've talked about it privately on the phone, but just so it's out there for context, is it started as, or it's part of like a project you have to do with Miss Texas, or with the competition that you're on, that you're preparing for. So can we talk a little bit about that overarching part, and kind of what the vision is for here until your competition, and then maybe post competition?
In regards to the podcast or just in general
Ooh.
preparation?
Let's go with podcast first and then general prep, because then we can go into
Okay.
some of these questions that people submitted.
Oh, fantastic. So,
So fun.
actually, I mean, Miss Texas is a vehicle that I use, and it's a platform that's so amazing to and extremely conducive to sharing your story, because you don't have to create a voice for yourself. It's like, boom, you have a title and you command attention. Because you Miss Frisco, Miss Texas. However, I don't see this um, within the confines of Miss Texas. So I'm really excited about the podcast just because I think it's such a great idea, and um, can just really highlight maybe what you can consider normal people that um,
Hmm.
they just live their lives, and they don't always get a ton of recognition for, hey, you went through this incredibly difficult thing, and that's amazing. So I'll have 5 episodes, my intro one, and then 4 with my guests before Miss Texas, because it's in 3 weeks anyway. So that was about all I could do. And then after Miss Texas, I mean, it's a free game. So I think I would just, what I've been doing is utilizing my network. So reaching out to people and explaining what I do, and hey, would you recommend anyone? and then finding them on Facebook, Instagram, and saying, hey, I'm Nicole. I have this podcast. I heard you have an amazing story. Do you want to come on? So the goal is to have it be an ongoing project that I do. And who knows, eventually a full-time gig. I mean, that's what you did with this. And it's definitely something I really, really enjoy doing. So that's the vision there.